Thank you for joining us this morning. Sheriff Newheiss is going to speak this morning about a search warrant that our Vice and Narcotics Unit executed yesterday on Larkin Road. Sheriff Newheiss?
Good morning. Thank you for attending. For the record, for those of you who are videotaping, my name is Sheriff Al Neenhuis. It's pronounced Neenhuis, and it's spelled N-I-E-N-H-U-I-S, and I am the Sheriff of Fernando County. Yesterday morning, my Vice and Narcotics Unit, along with obviously several other members of the Sheriff's Office, to include our law enforcement SWAT team, our detention SWAT team, and others, conducted a search warrant around 7 o'clock, maybe a little after 7 a.m. at 1431 Larkin Road in Spring Hill. For reference, that is in the southwest quadrant of the county. It is south of Spring Hill Drive, between Spring Hill Drive and County Line Road, and west of Mariner Boulevard, and obviously east of US 19. The investigation began back in May, after we received at least one tip. I think it's important to note that when you have somebody who is involved in this much illegal activity, it's usually not a secret, and we find out about it through one or more sources, and that's what happened here back in May. The subject started, or was the focus of the subject in question, was DeAndre Bristol, or Devin DeAndre Bristol. He's a black male and he's 28 years of age. We got information that he was selling cocaine throughout the Spring Hill area, and he mainly utilized parking lots of convenience stores or other businesses to conduct the transaction. It's important to note that a brief background of him found that he has, prior to the beginning of this investigation, I guess about 20 arrests through our agency alone, dating back to 2005. So he was definitely known to us. He served time in the Department of Corrections for sale and possession of cocaine, fleeing and eluding law enforcement, as well as introducing contraband into a correctional facility. During the course of the investigation, we were able to develop a relationship with Bristol, and he ended up selling powdered cocaine to our detectives on several different occasions. And they also found, the detectives, that he had a very large customer base in the Spring Hill area. And at the conclusion of the investigation, just prior to the search warrant, we were able to obtain 7 felony warrants for Bristol, and then, of course, executed the search warrant. Once we got inside the house, one thing of interest is we found a government assistance EBT card that was issued to Bristol last year. So we believe that he was getting government assistance. We haven't been able to verify that yet, but we also have no indication that he had any legal means of employment over the last several years. He is a convicted felon, and in addition to some of the things we saw here, we did find a firearm in the residence, so he is a felon in possession of a firearm. And probably the most disheartening thing is during the search warrant, there was a 3-year-old child in the house, and of course had to witness the search warrant. I actually saw the little child, and a cute little kid, and it's disheartening that this child was involved in this. And talking to the detective sometime later, found out that the child was actually with Bristol on more than one occasion when he did the drug dealing. So that was extremely disheartening. We, of course, notified DCF, and they're going to do their investigation. At the search warrant, we also found Bristol's girlfriend, Jasmine Delane. She's a black female. She's 26 years of age, and she was arrested as a result of what we found in the house during the search warrant. And what we found was crack cocaine, and not just a small little baggie of crack cocaine. We found 299.7 grams And to put that in perspective, it's about 2/3 of a pound of crack cocaine. And we also found about 22 pounds of marijuana. Found powdered cocaine. In addition to the crack cocaine, we found powdered cocaine about 1.5 kilos. And to change that into pounds, it's about 3.3 pounds of powdered cocaine. We also found what we believe to be, in the bags up here, liquid codeine, 128 ounces. Of course, lab testing is going to have to be done on that because we don't have a presumptive field test for that. But that equates to about 1 gallon of liquid codeine. And we also found a small number of ecstasy pills. We found paraphernalia, we found baggies, scales, and other things used to cook the crack cocaine. We seized 2 vehicles, one of which was a Mercedes that was purchased by Bristol, and he put a sizable amount of cash down, but he purchased it recently for $88,000. And during the search, we also found the cash. You can see the cash here, and actually even a cash counting machine. The cash totaled just over $35,000. And I think one thing as sheriff that concerns me is when you're driving a vehicle that's worth close to $90,000 and you have $35,000 in cash in your house, you might as well put a sign out front asking for a home invasion. Because obviously people would quickly do a home invasion for $35,000 in addition to obviously thousands of dollars worth of drugs. And what really scares me is sometimes those home invaders get the wrong house. So you could have a next door neighbor that could have somebody busting down their door trying to get this cocaine and an innocent person getting hurt or killed. As a result of the investigation, Jasmine Delane was arrested for trafficking in cocaine, possession of a structure to traffic in cocaine, felony possession of marijuana, possession of paraphernalia, and she currently has a bond of about $116,000, so it's well over $100,000. Devin Bristol, the subject of our original investigation, has been arrested on several counts, including trafficking in cocaine, possession of a structure to traffic in cocaine, felony possession of marijuana, possession of a controlled substance, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of paraphernalia, sale and possession of cocaine, 7 counts, some of which included a location that was within 1,000 feet of a church or a school, unlawful use of a two-way communication device, and last and certainly not least, possession of paraphernalia, and his bond is actually over $250,000. I believe it's $253,000 bond as of his booking. What I'd like to do now is turn it over briefly. I'll be happy to answer some questions in a moment if you have any for me, but I want to turn it over to our acting commander of the Vice and Narcotics Unit. It's Scott Lamia. He's a sergeant with us, and he's acting lieutenant right now in charge of this investigation. And he might tell you some nuances that I wasn't able to glean from my interaction, and he might be able to answer some questions about some of the specifics of the investigation. Obviously, one thing we're not going to talk about is too specific because we don't want to give up any of our sources or any of our investigative techniques, but there might be a couple things he can tell you that were kind of interesting about the investigation, so I'll turn it over to Sergeant Lamia.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Good job, by the way.
Thank you. Good morning. As Sheriff stated, my name is Sergeant Scott Lamia with the Vice and Narcotics Unit, and I was the supervisor during this investigation. Now, a couple of things, and if you want to ask some questions, feel free to do so. A couple of things that bothered me a little bit about this case was the fact that 299 grams of crack cocaine were just out in the open underneath a bed, to where we have a small child, 3 years old, in this residence. Could have easily mistaken that for some candy or a cookie. Also, large amounts of marijuana were just out in the open, along with the kilo of cocaine. So the safety of the child is obviously paramount when we do this investigation, and the disregard to leave this out is very concerning to myself and my detectives. As you can see, this gentleman was pretty large for the Spring Hill area, and I'm very happy that he's off the street. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask him.
So was it an undercover buy, or is that part of what you can't tell us? That
It was detectives that walked from Mr. Bristol. Several purchases, actually all of the purchases were out in the open, out in the public. Mr. Bristol has a large customer base that we're familiar with quite a few customers now, based on what we saw. But doing this in parking lots of gas stations, of stores where the public is just out shopping or doing their thing within a school or a church. Easily, as the sheriff stated, with what he's carrying, what he's doing, a robbery could have took place and innocent civilians could have been injured if they tried to rob Mr. Bristol.
Was the home owned by Mr. Bristol?
It's a rental.
It's a rental.
Yes, sir.
Were you surprised about how brazen he was? I mean, keeping the coke right under the bed, keeping all this pot. Does that surprise you?
It surprised me to a point. Obviously, he knew it was there because when we made entry into the house, he disregarded his family and everything and tried to flee out the back door. Obviously, he wasn't going to go very far, and he was captured trying to escape. So he knew what he had. He wanted to distance himself from that. As the sheriff also stated, and I even told the family members, is this was an open invitation for bad guys to come and rob him. And we've seen it all before where people get murdered over stuff like this. And with children and other innocent people that were in the house that had no involvement in this, it could have been a very big tragedy.
Where is he on the food chain of this operation?
It's still under investigation, but it's the Spring Hill area. I grew up in it. It's pretty large for the area.
I mean, I would assume, is getting these drugs from someone even higher up?
Oh, absolutely. It could be also out of the state or even out of the country.
Now, you made the buy, so you knew you were going in and there was something there. Did you realize you'd find this much stuff?
You never know what you're going to find. You never know what you're going to encounter when you go into a house. You don't know if you're going to encounter resistance or large amount of drugs, or you go in there and you see things, the deplorable living condition, especially for a child. So it's very disheartening to see when you go in, but you don't know what you're going to encounter. Obviously, we hit him when he was sitting heavy, and we're happy we did that.
Did he have any remorse about making his kid live in these conditions? He had all kinds of money, but yet wasn't using it to support the family.
Wasn't very cooperative. Obviously, he was willing to take off and leave his child there. So I don't take it as he has much remorse. To me, it seems like he didn't really care.
So Jasmine wasn't there at the time he was arrested. Only he and the child were in the home at the time of the.
Jasmine was in there.
Oh, she was.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Real quick, just for your pictures, this is a picture, and we can get you obviously booking photos or other pictures. This is Devin Bristol. Again, trafficking in cocaine, possession of a structure for trafficking in cocaine, possession of marijuana, possession of controlled substance, possession of a firearm by a felon, possession of paraphernalia, and 7 counts of sale and possession of cocaine, several of which, or a few of which rather, were within 1,000 feet of a school or a church, in possession of paraphernalia. And then the girlfriend Jasmine, this is a photograph of her. She was arrested for trafficking in cocaine, possession of a structure to traffic in cocaine, possession of marijuana, felony amount, possession of paraphernalia, and again, her bond amount is $268,000. And I think that the lesson here is two things that we want to get out to the public. Number one, the public is often frustrated with something like this is occurring in their neighborhood, and we feel that frustration and we understand it. But one thing I mandate from my people is they're going to do a thorough investigation and give the state attorney's office a good prosecutable case, one that can take these people off the street for, in this case, Mr. Bristol is probably looking at least a handful of decades, if convicted, of all these charges. So he's going to be off the streets for a while, assuming that he is convicted in a court of law. And we want to do it right. And of course, we can't tell the public what's going on in their neighborhood because we don't want to get back to the bad guys, because citizens sometimes inadvertently tell the bad guys, well, the cops are on to you. So we got to keep what we're doing very quiet. And it does take sometimes months to do it right. So we're asking the public to be patient. If you've given us a location of a drug house, I can assure you that if it's a legitimate drug house, we are working it, and we're working it hard. And secondly, I want a message to go out to those people that that are doing drugs out of those houses that we're probably already on to you, and you'll probably be getting a visit from us in the early morning hours in the future sometimes, and it may be in the next few days or next few weeks or next few months, but we'll eventually get around to you, and we're going to get you off the streets. So we're not going to tolerate this going on in our community, and it's not just the sheriff, it's all my people. They take this stuff very, very seriously because they know what this poison does to families and to communities, and we're going to do everything we can to keep it out of our area. So, you have any questions of me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Sheriff, you said he had a lot of customers.
Yes.
Are you gonna go after any of them?
Very likely we will. If we're able to identify them and we're able to charge them. Obviously, in the course of investigation, some evidence is easier to collect than others. Some of those customers might already be cooperating with us, so we'll leave that up in the air and leave some of the bad guys to guess on what we know and what we don't know and what we're going to do in the future. But we're definitely going to do our best to get especially if they're dealing. And obviously, this is, the sergeant said, this is probably, I think in anybody's book, a mid-level dealer at least, particularly for the local area, maybe a higher end dealer, but definitely in the drug world in general, a mid-level dealer at least. So he's probably selling to people who are also selling, and so they need to watch out too.
How satisfying is this to get all this stuff off the street?
Well, it's bittersweet because it's very satisfying to get this off the street, but when you see a cute little kid being held by one of my SWAT guys and they're joking around, it's tragic to say the least. So, and it is an uphill battle. Obviously, this isn't the only person doing this type of stuff in Hernando County, so it is a victory, but it's a short-lived victory because we have a lot in front of us. We got to start looking forward. We can't bask in our successes for too long because we've got too much to do.
What message do you have for all the people that were buying all this stuff?
The people that were buying this stuff, you need to get help. You need to get help because if you're addicted to crack cocaine or any drug that any drug dealer is selling, you need to get yourself some help. If you're selling it, particularly, we're coming after you, but even if you're possessing it, if arresting those people and getting them in jail and getting them some help gets them off of this stuff, then we'll be happy to do that too. And we do that on a fairly regular basis.
You said there was an EBT card with his name on it.
Yes.
It's, I mean, that's going to touch a nerve with a lot of people knowing
Well,
that.
it touches a nerve with the sheriff. You know, it is frustrating to know that, and everybody in this room pays taxes, all the deputies, myself, everybody. And you know, it's very frustrating to know that our federal tax dollars are going to somebody who's driving around in an $88,000 car selling drugs, and he has $35,000 in cash, but he has an EBT card. That's just not acceptable. So.
Do you have any information on the health of the child? Do you know where they had any sort of addiction or anything like that?
Everything I saw, I don't have any specific, but what I saw personally, he seemed to be in good health and good spirits. So.
And then just for clarification, they both are his parents?
I don't know if we're willing to release that, but he was
Okay.
definitely a child in the house.
Where is the child now?
I believe DCF is working on it. I don't know if it was released to family members or DCF, I'm not sure. But obviously, both of the individuals, the adults in the house, are still in jail, I believe. So.
When you say mid-level drug dealer, are you able to give us an idea of like the level, the reach, how far his reach actually went, maybe the number of potential people?
That would be a guess. I don't even know if you could answer, but definitely very prolific in Spring Hill, I would say, and obviously had a large customer base. I don't know if you can give any more specifics than that.
We don't have numbers, but I can tell you he's busy in the Hernando County area.
I think the detectives, either you or one of the detectives was saying that when an undercover detective would be buying from him, there might be 2 or 3 other cars waiting to do a deal with him in the same parking lot of the convenience store, the YMCA, or wherever he happened to be at that moment. And I think we had it was a convenience store right by the YMCA, and Mariner was one of them, and some other convenience stores in the area where he'd actually do his deals.
Are you able to say if there, since he's a mid-level dealer, that you believe there may be other mid-level dealers in Hernando or Spring Hill that may be operating in the same degree?
That's hard to say, but it obviously wouldn't surprise me. It's a lot of money to be made, and people do some things that the average citizen would consider not very wise and maybe downright stupid, to have $35,000 and flash it around and flash a car around. And so I'm sure there's others that want to live that lifestyle. The only trouble is either the law or the criminal activity is going to catch up with them, one of the two. And they're either going to spend a lot of time in prison, or they'll end up seriously injured or dead.
Were these drug deals daytime, nighttime?
I think they were pretty much any time of the day. Maybe you can answer that if you.
He worked 24 hours a day. Yeah, he didn't have a schedule. He didn't have to get home for dinner. He did it whenever he wanted to. So he was out and about a lot.
Anything else? All right, y'all welcome to take some pictures. I'd appreciate this. You know, you don't want to touch any of this unless you have gloves on, for a couple different reasons. We don't believe there's any fentanyl associated with this, but we don't want anybody to get sick. And also, there's some stuff that still may need to be processed, so make sure you don't touch anything up here that could even remotely resemble evidence, but you're welcome to take pictures of it. And thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Have a great day. Thanks, sir.